What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Playbook Sports Podcast. We are here to continue our off-season series where we look at all 32 NFL teams and just what they have done this off-season from a coaching standpoint, from a free agency standpoint, and from the draft. Have these teams improved? Have they gotten worse? And what grade are we going to give them? Today, we're going to talk about the Atlanta Falcons. Now, the Atlanta Falcons have made some changes on the defensive side of the ball. They did bring in new defensive coordinator Jeff Ulbrich. Although, to be honest with you guys, Raheem Morris is a defensive guy. So, Ulbrich is there. It's like when he was there with Robert Saleh. Robert Saleh was running that defense, not Jeff Ulbrich. Jeff Ulbrich is not going to run the defense here. As a matter of fact, he's already been more detrimental to the team because his son decided to call a bunch of NFL prospects and mess with them on the biggest night of their life. Real dick move. Whatever. He may be, I don't know how old he is. Maybe he's a kid and he didn't know any better. Whatever. Either way, that is a defensive change for them. And then they also changed a few of the assistant coaches around, as you guys will see there on the graphic. As far as additions go offensively in free agency, they really didn't do much. They extended Jake Matthews, their long-term left tackle, which is great. But in terms of additions, there's nothing really to note here. So I'm going to, kind of an NA as far as their offensive additions go. Losses, they really only lose one guy, but it hurts, man. It's Drew Dahlman, your starting center, and he was really solid last year. And he went to Chicago. Shout out Bears. I think he was a great signing by them. It really is interesting that Atlanta let him walk. That's not a position you really want to have a glaring hole at. That's your captain on the offensive line. And Atlanta has had such good interior offensive line play that it's kind of shocking and a change of a culture almost for them to let him walk. It's like that's not their philosophy normally. So, I mean, just from that standpoint, as far as free agency goes, when you lose one of the better centers of the league and you don't bring anybody in just to replace him or anybody else to help your offense, it's hard to say anything other than that they got worse on the offensive side of the ball. Now, they will obviously be turning to quarterback Michael Penix for the entire season and not just the last few games of it like they did last year. They do still have Kirk Cousins, who I'm assuming they're going to try to trade at some point. I'm surprised it hasn't happened yet. I can't believe Pittsburgh isn't on the phone, truthfully, but that's neither here nor there. Defensively, they did bring in cornerback Mike Hughes, a 3-year, $18 million contract. They brought in Divine Diablo, 2 years, $14 million, and they brought in Leonard Floyd on a 1-year, $10 million contract. Now, these were good signings because I think these guys will all play a role early. Leonard Floyd currently listed as one of their starting outside linebackers. Divine Diablo currently listed as one of their 2 starting interior linebackers. And then Mike Hughes is currently listed as one of their starting corners. So those are 3 players that you expect to see a hefty number of snaps that you just brought in. And I like that. That's what I want to see. You spend short, cheap money, short contracts on these guys to come in and help your team be better right away. They did, unfortunately for them, lose a Falcons legend in Grady Jarrett, who has been awesome for them. Falcons fans should have nothing but love for Grady Jarrett. I get why they moved on. He is 32 years old. He's reaching the end of his time. And Atlanta, it seems like maybe they're trying to go just a little bit younger at some of these positions. And they did draft Rook Orororo in the second round last year, who I'm guessing they're hoping will replace him. They really should have taken Jerzon Newton last year, but that is neither here nor there. Neither here nor there. I will say I think their defense slightly improved. I know losing Grady Jarrett really sucks, but I do think that the overall pieces, you got 3 starters for the price of 1, right? I think that is an overall improvement in Raheem Morris's defense. And then we talk about the draft. They had 5 picks, and all 5 are on the defensive side of the ball, but the 2 I want to talk about here, really I guess 3 because I do like Xavier Watts. Jalen Walker and James Pierce both in the first round. Jalen Walker to Atlanta was one of the picks that I predicted going into the draft. I don't know why, I just like that fit. I'm really interested to see how Atlanta deploys him, whether it's they need a middle linebacker, still could use one. Divine Diablo's solid. And they've got, who was the other middle linebacker that's going to drive me nuts? Caden Ellis. They've also got Caden Ellis, who's young, so he could be a part of a 3-man rotation at middle linebacker. You rush him off the edge. Obviously, you did just add Leonard Floyd, but I do think Jalen Walker, as it stands now, and if you go look at ESPN's depth chart, he's currently listed as one of the starting outside linebackers. So he will be rushing the passer right away. I don't know if I love that, but I'm going to defer to Raheem Morris's expertise here. And then I am a huge James Pierce fan. I have been a fan of his the entire draft process. And people will say, oh my gosh, you gave up a first-round pick next year to get James Pierce. No. Don't look at it like that. Yes, you did. You did do that. But you just used next year's first-rounder. That's all you did. You've just already made that pick, right? And you don't know where that pick's going to be, but as long as it isn't in the top 6 picks, you can argue you've got just fine value here for James Pierce Jr. If he's as good as I think he can be with that unbelievable first step that he has, you can very easily just say, that's okay. We just used our first-round pick this year instead of next year. And I think if you look at it like that, it's like, okay, that makes sense. We got a first-round caliber player this year instead of next year. Okay, moving on. And then I do really like Xavier Watts, too. I don't think he's listed to start right away. As a matter of fact, he is next to Jesse Bates. Love that pairing. I love that safety pairing. I really like what they've done in the secondary with starters of A.J. Terrell and Mike Hughes and then Jesse Bates and Xavier Watts. I think that is an excellent starting secondary for Atlanta. So that's very, very good. I think Atlanta had a really, really good draft. However, they left some holes on this roster. Obviously, they didn't fix their center position. They lost Drew Dahlman, and now their starting center going into the season is currently listed as Ryan Newsill, a player I have not heard of, a third-year player out of Appalachian State. Sorry if I don't trust that. Ryan Newsill, no disrespect to you. I will say he's at least flanked by a couple of good guards in Matthew Bergeron and Chris Lindstrom, and a couple of good tackles in Caleb McGarry and Jake Matthews. So maybe you can hide a bad center in there. Maybe. But I think their biggest hole that they have left unattended is their defensive line. You let Grady Jarrett walk. You're running a 3-4. So you've got a nose tackle. You've got 2 interior defensive ends, as we'll call them defensive ends. They're not pass rushers. They are defensive ends. You've got your 3 current starters are listed as Morgan Fox as a defensive end. Ruko Rororo is listed as your starting nose tackle. A lot of issues with that. We'll come back to that. And then David Onyemata as your other defensive end. Now, David Onyemata's solid, but you've got an interesting trio of guys here that are all expected to start and play huge minutes, and they're all small. Where's your size on the defensive side of the ball? That's my biggest issue with what I'm looking at here. You have 1 defensive lineman of your 3 starters that's listed at 300 pounds. The other 2 are less than that. Ruko Rororo is listed at 294 pounds, man. That's not enough to play nose tackle. He's going to get bullied in there. David Onyemata's 300 pounds. He's your biggest one. He's your big body. And then Morgan Fox is 275 pounds. I mean, they are going to get run on. This team is going to have a really, really hard time stopping the run. And then you look at their linebacking core. They're not big guys either. Leonard Floyd is obviously a pass rusher. Caden Ellis is 230 pounds. Divine Diablo, how big is Divine Diablo? I got to look it up real fast because I got to know. 223 pounds. Who is stopping the run on this football team? What defensive player on the Atlanta Falcons is stopping the run in your front 7? Yeah, Jesse Bates is a great tackler. That's fantastic. He's going to have to be. Him and Xavier Watts are both going to have to be really good tacklers because you don't have any beef in the middle of this defense. And I have concerns about that, man. I have serious concerns about that, and if I was Atlanta, I would too. Overall, for their offseason, while I did just kind of dump on them a little bit there, I do give them a C+. I don't hate what they've done. I don't hate it. But I also don't love it. It's just kind of there, right? They had a couple of good draft picks in there. I felt like they could have gotten some better value at some spots, but that's neither here nor there. They just didn't want to address the interior defensive line or their center, which are interesting spots to not want to fill that hole because those are really important. When I look at Atlanta's offseason and I look at their roster, I struggle to see how they improved enough to catch, let alone pass, Tampa Bay in the NFC South. I just don't see it, and that's what they've got to be trying to do because they're in win-now mode. You've got the quarterback on the cheap contract, and you've got vets all around him. You've got to be going for it. That's just how it is right now, where you have the rookie contract quarterback, and you build around him, and you go. That's what they have, and I just don't see any way that they're better than Tampa Bay this year. I just don't see it. Prove me wrong, Atlanta. Prove me wrong. That's all I've got for you guys on today's off-season grades. We will see you guys in the next one with the Baltimore Ravens.